Hello, Jamie.
Hi.
Very nice that this miracle happened and you're here in Estonia.
It is indeed a miracle. I don't know anybody else on the scene that's playing the show except for me right now. I think they all hate me because I'm actually getting stuck on a stage. Nobody else is.
And this place where we do this interview is our workshop Tallinn. It's your first time here, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's my second time in Estonia. I came pretty much 3 years to the day, which is kind of nuts. But definitely my first time in this record store. I think I was saying to you yesterday that it's such a surprise and a nice surprise to see a place that's still like really passionate about music and still selling physical products, because I mean, it might just be the area that I live in the UK, but you know, people don't really seem to care about physical products anymore. They tend to be, you know, much more into digital downloads. So this is a great establishment. I'm really happy to be here.
You come from Leeds?
Yeah, north of England, yeah, Leeds.
Okay, the place where the Sisters of Mercy came out.
That's the claim to fame, yeah. Sisters of Mercy and the ESA, let's say that.
My name is Alo. I'm a journalist who was asked to come here and also help and ask some questions. I wanted to ask a question about yesterday. I mean, you arrived here yesterday. What are your first impressions about Estonia?
My first impression was a very angry Estonian woman putting a swab up my nose. That was my first impression. And it was, she seemed like she was quite angry with my nose, considering how far she went back. It was quite brutal. It was quite a distressing event.
Was it at the airport or?
It was at the airport, yeah.
It's a random woman, or it was about...
Oh no, it was a professional woman, I think. I think so. She was wearing a mask, but she could have been anybody who just wanted to touch my nose. But that was my very first impression of Estonia.
Did she want to test you?
She wants to test me in many ways, yeah. I don't think I've looked that dismayed when I was a child and crying for my mother. It was a dark moment, but it had to happen to get into the country, and that's the rules. And here I am, and it's fucking weird, but here we are.
You have been here also 3 years ago. Has there anything changed in Estonia from your perspective, besides Corona?
Yeah, that's a big change. So 3 years ago. Basically, it was a fly-by kind of situation. I played Finland the night before, and then took the ferry with a lot of drums here. And it was pretty much get off the plane and get off the ferry and relax for an hour and play a show and go back again. So unfortunately, I didn't really get to see much of Tallinn, and I remedied that today by taking a long walk around the old town and some different areas of Tallinn. Because I know how beautiful it is as a city, so I really wanted to check it out and see it properly. And I've actually decided to stay a few more days. Originally I was going to be going back tomorrow. You don't know this yet, big guy. But I was originally going to go back tomorrow, but I'm going to go back on Tuesday because I really like the city. So, yeah. I don't know if anything's changed, other than people being slightly further apart. It's still a beautiful city. I just get to see more of it this time.
Mm. But how is life here in Estonia compared to United Kingdom? I mean, Corona-wise and in general, do you see any difference streets or? So England really handled this whole situation very badly. I don't think that's a strong statement. I think we're all very aware of how bad England dealt with this situation. I don't know what the difference is between the government in Estonia and the UK, but we seem to have dealt with it very badly. And it seems like it's been dealt with much better here. But it's, people still in the UK seem to think it's some sort of conspiracy, and a lot of people don't like to wear masks. It's just like, get on with it, because our spikes are far higher than yours. And that's the reason why, basically, because no one's really paying any attention to it. Obviously, there's a lot of people coming into the UK, so the possibility of bringing additional spikes in, but it feels much freer here. But I think that's because it was handled better initially. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The numbers in Estonia have been remarkably low, but it's getting up again. So
Yeah, because you're letting guys like me in.
yeah, but you tested negative, as I understand.
Nope. Yeah, I'm a negative.
I would say that it's actually a miracle that you are actually here tonight, because you were supposed to come here in March.
Correct.
And then the pandemic came, and the show was cancelled, and there were travel restrictions and so on. And we have been living with the Corona fear for months now, and now the second wave is coming, and somehow you managed to get through and to be allowed to perform tonight. How was that possible?
So I think so. Basically, in March we decided to postpone this. We got together and we figured out a date that we thought would be realistic, and I think we picked the perfect date because we feel like we've kind of we've closed the first chapter and the second chapter is about to start. And I feel like right now is a period of calm, relatively speaking. So I think we picked the perfect date. Actually, I think any later and we're going to struggle. So it does feel very surreal to be here. And it feels very surreal to be, like I was saying, one of my only people in the scene that imagined to play a show. So I just got to be really thankful, and we have to make the most of it.
Have you had any concerts this year anywhere else?
So I played the Czech Republic, I played Prague in March, and it was the week before everybody basically locked down. So the Czech Republic closed down a week after that show. So I was again very, very lucky to play kind of like the last show for 6 months. And I think if we're being honest, this is probably going to be the last show of the year. I think the way things are going, depressing as it is, but I think the spikes are coming back, and I think this is probably it. So
You are very pessimistic.
I'm very pessimistic. I'm a British person.
I still hope that second wave will not come. But
It's gonna happen.
So tell us more about tonight. What will we be seeing or feeling, or what can we expect from tonight's show in our techno club Hive?
So like I was saying, I've not played since March, so for me, this is going to be quite a cathartic situation. It's going to be a big event for me. I've also been dealing with some personal problems. I basically lost my hearing in probably the week after I got back from the Czech Republic. I lost my hearing for about 4 or 5 months. Only got it back like a month ago. So I've been dealing with some personal things as well. So for me, this is not just a situation for a great show, but for me personally, this is a big cathartic situation. So what you will see is the same energy that I usually give, probably a little bit more, because live is where it's at, and that's where I feel most at home. And I just hope there's going to be some people that are ready to get pretty destructive on the dance floor tonight.
we were yesterday just hanging in this hall. Did you like the club already? Or?
Yes, the hall is ridiculous. For me, it feels like a personification of an industrial venue. And I've other than maybe Maschinenfest in Germany, I would put that as a close second, but what I saw in Hull was just an insane venue. Yeah. Okay. It's, it just blew me away yesterday. It feels so real. There's nothing fraudulent about it. There's nothing corporate about it. It feels like there's a great family running it as well. So I'm blown away by the venue.
Nice to hear. Thanks.
Maybe someone has questions from the audience also. If there is a possibility to ask, it's not just 3 of us, all of you can join in if you want. Just a question.
Anything you like.
I have a question. Tell us maybe about the new album of yours. You're selling it here also and presenting it in Tallinn.
Yeah, absolutely. So I released Burial 10 on the 7th of February. What was a struggle with this whole situation was I basically locked myself in a room for 6 months
And I was like, okay, I need to get this album out. It needs to be the best thing I've done because what's the point unless you're going to improve? And I released the album and I was like, okay, 2020 is my year. 2020, I'm going to tour this album. It's the best thing I've released. Let's do it. And obviously, what happened. So yeah, for me, I'm very proud of the album. And, you know, I really built a whole product to tour with us. It was going to be an American tour and a lot of European dates as well. And obviously what happened. And in the meantime, I've also released the digital EP, EP because I was kind of a reflection of what's going on. And I kind of developed a workaround to not hearing. Funnily enough, I managed to sort out a mixed situation where I could actually figure that out. But Burial 10 is something I'm very proud of. And this is going to be the first, maybe the Czech Republic was the first show that's displayed those tracks, but so I'm going to really go for it as well.
Thanks.
Are you still with Vartensberg?
Yeah.
When they release some new stuff, you're doing some vocals, or?
So definitely still with Atmosphere. I've probably taken a step back from the writing. Initially I was brought on as a writer and a vocalist, whereas it's kind of moved over to just being a vocalist now. Just because I'm so heavily involved with ESA, trying to produce that properly. So we are definitely still together, and the situation is difficult because Atmosphere mainly is based in Canada, and that obviously already brings certain restrictions, but considering the current situation, it brings much more frustration with regards to playing shows. So when the time is right, we will tour again. In the meantime, I think Scott Fox from my Atmosphere and I are going to start to sit down and figure out a plan for the next album.
Actually, to come back to this question, then you have your own project ECA, and then you're a member of Atmosphere. And
Yes.
Actually, I've been wondering, how is it possible that you are from UK and the band is from Canada, and you are a member of this group? And how is it possible? I mean, to make music and also to tour, for example.
So what happened was I played a show called Kinetic, I think it was, in Montreal. I would say, I think it was about 8 or 9 years ago, and I caught up with Scott. He approached me. He was like, "Okay, I really like Seeing the Silence," which is an old album. It wasn't produced particularly well, but I think he really latched onto the feel of it. Like it had a lot of tribal elements to it, and because Scott is so like ingrained in the tribal sound, he was like, "Okay, I really like this album. Do you want to have a chat?" We sat down. And he was like, "Would you be interested in writing?" I was like, "Absolutely. Let's give it a shot." With regards to touring, I mean, he's from Canada, and you know the other drummers are from Canada, like Chuck and everyone like that. I'm from the UK, so the tours that we did was mainly in America. So I mean, he's as much of an alien to America as I am to America. So you just make it work. I mean, we play shows whenever we can. So we will get festivals in the summer in the UK or Canada or America and things like that. But yeah, we just tour whenever we can, really. It's never easy for any band. I don't think it really adds too much of a problematic dimension, the fact that we are, you know, 5,000, 6,000 miles away. You can still make it work. Certainly with writing. Writing is, you know, internet-based right now, so...
And it doesn't disturb in any way the production process if you're far away, or are there any challenges?
I think it makes it better. I think it makes it easier. I think because of our music, because the kind of music that we make, the genre, it's electronic anyway. You don't need to get in a room. You don't need to rehearse in a band room. So yeah, it's not made difficult by having been so far apart. You just send over files and be like, okay, I've got this great loop going, I've got this great rhythm. Can you write something to go on top of? Can you write some vocals? Can you write some lyrics to it? Because we have such a good working relationship and we're good friends, it's just
it's very easy. It's very easy. There are also many vocalists who just sing on your songs. They are never on stage video or just studio projects.
So I try to get people on stage with me when I can, but it's location dictated really. So I have two main vocalists I work with, and it's two ladies called Tallinn Stokes, who's based in Brighton, which is pretty easy to get to, and also Joanne from Massive History. So I work with those two vocalists quite frequently because I really like the vocal style and we work together very well. And we have played shows in Czech Republic. I played with Joanne. She played 2 tracks there, and then the last gig before that was in London. I played with Caitlin there. So when it's possible, I'll absolutely get the vocalist involved because it's much more exciting for the crowd to see a collaboration going on. You know, turn your phone off.
Very unprofessional.
Is that a black metal ringtone?
Yeah, of course, it's 31st. You like 71st?
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe I say
one album.
He will call again.
Yeah. We can rock out.
This album.
That's the album, man.
He calls again. Yes.
Very professional. This.
Maybe I'll come back to some more general questions. Some of us are your huge fans. Some of us have been to your concerts. But I think that there are maybe also people who only know the name, ESA, but don't know what's behind, even what kind of music it is, that may be watching us or here. Or about you. Please tell more about yourself. Who are you and where do you come from? Just a general.
That's a scary question.
What's your profile?
So I came from a black metal background originally. I was a metal kid, and I started a band when I was maybe like 18, 19, and we did a few shows and everything was great, and I soon realized that whilst I love black metal, I don't like working with other people so much. I like to have complete control. And I also started listening to much more industrial music, like, you know, when I got to that age, I was like, okay, who is this skinny puppy guys and who are these frontline assembly guys? And I got into that. I was okay, how do I transfer the feel of metal, like the anger of metal, to the industrial side, to this kind of electronic side as well? So I decided to give it a go, and it was a strange transfer to making electronic music, but I'm very, very happy that I did. And here we are, 15 years later. Yeah.
But, how did this change happen? I mean, I understand that you started listening to music and so on, but I mean, practically, in one day you, I don't know, bought a computer, bought a program, and started experimenting.
Well, actually, I decided one day to go to a second-hand store and buy a drum machine and put a distortion pedal through it. That's literally what I decided to do. I was like, okay, let's create some drum loops, and because I was really enjoying rhythmical noise at that point, like sonar and monolith and all the very basic but very, very powerful rhythmic industrial. So I was like, okay, how do I make that sound? How do I do that? So I just got my guitar pedal that I've been using as a black metal band and threw that into, you know, a Zoom drum machine, and I was like, okay, that's it. That's how you get there. It's that easy. And then slowly, as it went along, I was like, okay, how do I make this more intelligent? How do I create a mood with this? And that's when you have to, you know, think about different synthesizers and get a DAW and, you know, working out how to structure things. And because I had an experience of structuring songs, that really helped me. Whereas I think a lot of people in the rhythmical noise scene probably didn't know how to make songs, so they were just like, that was it. It was like that for 5 minutes, and that's great if you're on drugs. But when you're not, sometimes you need a little bit more. So I was like, okay, how do I make this into an actual song and, you know, create a structure and a mood and a journey through the track? So it was pretty much overnight, and my neighbours hated me for a long time until I was making this racket,
trying to figure out this equipment and how things sound good. But yeah, it was more fluent than you would imagine, probably.
But what about your previous fans or members of the band you were previously? How do they react to this? That now I'm going to change.
Are they also electronic musicians at the moment?
Funnily enough, the vocalist of the Black Metal Band is now making drum and bass. So I think there is a very thin line between metal music and electronic music, as long as it's made in a specific way. In drum and bass, industrial, noise, whatever, it's all quite angry music. It doesn't really matter if you have a guitar on your back or you're playing sample drums. Or I just think it's all pretty much connected. So the band disbanded anyway, and I was like, okay, this is the direction I want to move in. I think they kind of figured, okay, that makes sense for him. So there was never any weirdness about it.
So you didn't destroy the band?
I did not destroy the band. I can't remember, we're talking a long time ago. We're probably talking like 20 years ago now. But I think we'd already decided that this wasn't working. This was much harder than we thought it would be, and that's when I decided, okay, let's make this on my own.
Did you release anything with this band?
Yeah, we released a couple of CDs.
What was the name of them?
It was called Sermon of Hypocrisy.
Okay.
So I as a child, I was a teenager between 15 and 18, was recording black metal demos in my bedroom and releasing tapes and things like that. And the band found me, they were like, okay, we really like what you're doing on your own. Can you come in and we'll see if it works, it gels as a band. But the weird thing is when I go back to those tapes, as I did a few months ago, I listened to those tapes and they have industrial on them. They have a lot of industrial influences before I even heard industrial. So I think I was already in that mindset that that's kind of the thing that I like, I like weird noises and, metallic noises and things, and I was throwing that into industrial. I think that's why the band at the time were interested. So okay, you're doing something different, even though you're 15 and you're in your bedroom,
Actually, it would be very interesting to listen to some of these songs. I don't know if they're on YouTube or somewhere.
I have 2 cassettes that I'm currently trying to get digitally formatted. It's horrendous. The sound quality is just abysmal, but the intention is there. I'm happy to share it around for sure.
You mentioned that what connects this you before and you after is anger. Where does your anger come from?
That's a really good question. I mean, where does any of our anger come from? I mean, I think as a kid, my father would watch horror films, and I'd sit outside the living room, like listening to what's going on, like why are these people screaming and stuff. And I think it just connected with me. I think it just connects with some people, like the darker side of things. It's maybe not anger. I feel more connected to a bleaker, darker outlook. And I don't feel particularly bleak or dark. I'm quite happy. But my persuasion is to go to the dark side of things, and I think we all understand that. And to me, anger, it's not a bad thing, it's a good thing, because we're all animals at the end of the day, and if we don't vent that anger, then we go out and get drunk and have a fight with somebody. I think making music through anger is much more productive and much more safe.
So it's something like Andres' band's motto. How is it? Negative music for positive results.
Well, there you go. That's the tagline. I think that's pretty much it, isn't it?
I think so.
I mean, look how happy you are. You are such a happy guy.
Yeah,
you're like a ray of sunshine.
Very optimistic.
Very optimistic.
I also make dark music and dark.
Yeah, but that's maybe the reason why you are so optimistic, because you get to vent. It's a very cathartic process. It's a ritual. Get rid of those feelings.
But about dark music and metal music and all this kind of stuff, there was also a meme, I remember, very yeah, that's how it is. I remember there was like normal, typical persons on the one picture, like and when one guy wanted to take photo, they were like smiling, and there was another section where all long-haired metal guys were like, and then was the moment that let's take the picture, and they were.
Yeah.
It was vice versa.
That's very realistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh shit, thanks. I feel like a rock star today. It's the first time in 6 months. Cheers.
So maybe you can talk about also the past or the hope everything is okay.
Somebody venting their anger, I think.
It's really industrial is happening there.
Your project ESA, I would say it is a catchy name. Easy to remember. Finding a good name is always a challenge for a band. How did you end up with this? Where did you find it?
So it goes past the black metal band I was in. We had a track called Black Substance Abuse, and I loved the track name so much I decided to steal it from the vocalist.
To change the track?
Yeah, well, I changed the name, so Black Substance Abuse, electronic substance abuse, yeah. So I actually have the vocalist of the band to thank for that moment of that spark of ingenuity. But actually, since then, I've realised it was a bad call because ESA stands for so many things. So it stands for like Employment Support Allowance and European Space Agency and all these different companies. So if you put ESA into Google, you're going to get like everything except for my band, basically.
And if it's without dots, it's Finnish man name. So I have many friends called ESA.
Yeah. Also, there is like a Spanish rapper called ESA as well. So I'm finding a lot of people for the name, but you know, it's a little bit too late to change it now. But I do prefer it. Like when people say ESA, yeah, it is real hooky, and it's just like, you know, it's easy to say and it sticks in your head. But the weird thing is, I drive around a lot and I see ESA on license plates all the time. I don't know if it's some kind of universal like connection or something, but I see ESA all the time. It's very strange. But I'm glad you think it's a hooky name.
And I think that it also describes rather well what your music is about. I mean, electronic, and the other part reflects to this darker mood and darker side. So in this sense, it works, I would say.
So I would say that my music what I go for is less. It's not so much dark, but power. My main thing is power, and I'll work on a mix so much so I can get, you know, so much energy and like a wall of sound is what I go for. And I try and give it a dark tinge as well. But ultimately, what I try and go for is basically power of music. Because when you are singing about live, that's what really excites you. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen Meshuggah live. I've seen Meshuggah live, and to me that's a personification of power. Just like a big, like solid, you know, wall of sound. And that's what I try and do, but just make it quite a journey into the tracks as well.
Actually, this is a good start for my next question. I've been wondering about the style, the music style that you are, where I could put your music. Actually, it's rather hard because you do so many different things. I mean, how would you define your music style or styles? What genres are they?
So I really struggle with this. Whenever I meet somebody who's only really into the mainstream music, I do struggle to explain what I do. I would say it borders on techno. I would say it borders on dark techno. It does definitely have industrial influences. It definitely has noise influences. But I try and make it a combination of all of those things. But I think over the whole thing is a specific sound of heavy metal. I think I try and make electronic music, but metal, if you understand what I mean. I try and make it with the same feel death or black metal. So it is hard to describe. I have been bracketed into Paranoise, EBM and Terror Electro, whatever it's called. I don't really know the genre names, but it's somewhere between all those things. And I'm quite proud to be between all those things. I don't really want to be bracketed. I don't want to fall into a specific niche.
And you haven't mentioned the Prodigy. I think you don't sound like Prodigy, but this arranging your songs or what it's called, it's very similar, and they are also like in between everything. It's like they took influences from every genre, from punk to metal, from breakbeat to
so
whatever.
when you say that, that's a massive compliment.
There is big similarity between ESA and Prodigy.
Well, that's a massive compliment, because to me,
you have a good chance to go with it.
So for me, Music for the Jilted Generation is one of the best albums ever been written, because it was the album where they decided to go wayward and not just be a rave band. They decided to get a lot darker and a lot more powerful. I heard that music when I was growing up, and I still listen to that album now. It's an amazing album, and the stuff that came out after it as well. But yeah, I'm a huge Prodigy fan, because again, it's about power, isn't it? It's about energy and powers.
What kind of electronic music do you like? I mean, besides what you do, I know that you are still a big fan of metal, but if you take the electronic side, besides Prodigy, what bands or what genres do you like or to listen to?
I'm going to really let you down now, because I don't really tend to listen to electronic music at all. I don't really listen to industrial music because I don't really want to be influenced by it. So the albums that I listen to now, the albums that I listened to when I was, early 20s, growing up. And that's really sad. I get that. I get that it's not a great thing. I'm not investing in new bands, but honestly, the albums in my car are still Entombed, and Dismember, and Slayer, and all the stuff I grew up on, because that's where my heart lies.
So you get your inspiration from metal and you release it in electronics?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
But do you like also like first wave industrial bands that mainly come from England, from Sheffield scene, Hotel, Pop TVA, all things like this? It was very, very strong scene in 70s.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. So even now, there are a lot of amazing English industrial bands. If you ask me to think of them and to say my favorite album, I'd struggle, because I do try and steer away from the electronic scene. I listen to a lot of rap music, believe it or not. I listen to a lot of metal and industrial. I just try and, I don't know if it's a conscious thing, but it's just, I don't really tend to get too involved in it. But there are a hell of a lot of really great bands and projects out there, for sure.
About hip hop and rap music, there's a mega hype about Sleaford Mods. What do you think about them?
I've never heard of them, actually. Yeah. So what I'm listening to at the moment is...
You have.
Have I?
It was playing here before.
Oh, really? That was like a punk band, wasn't it? I'm sure it was a punk band. But
it's punk.
Oh, really? Okay. But what I'm listening to mostly at the moment is Clipping. I don't know if you know the band Clipping. They're from LA. Yeah. They're like a really experimental rap group. It's really dark, actually. Yeah, it's really good. Check it out, Clipping.
By the way, I also like Prodigy very much. It has also influenced me.
Same here. That's why Prodigy is so huge, because everybody's like it.
Yeah, I think a lot of metal kids tagged onto Prodigy with Music for a Jilted Generation. They kind of like, okay, this is our rave album.
Did you cry when Giflin died?
I wouldn't cry if I don't know somebody. I think it's a strange sentiment to cry with somebody you don't know, you never had a connection with. But it's very sad. He was obviously a very important and intelligent producer, so it's a massive shame. Absolutely.
But Genesis P-Orridge also died.
Okay. I mean, that's bad too. Right, I wouldn't cry. I'd cry if I didn't get to Estonia yesterday, but...
Yeah, actually, when we talk about Prodigy, then when Keith Flint died, I would say I was mourning, and I wrote also a small article about it in my newspaper.
Yeah, I mean, he was a very important person, so I get it. I get that he needs to be, celebrated. Absolutely, I felt really shit.
If they would ask you to replace
In a second.
singer, you go there.
Absolutely, in a second. I'm gone.
I don't think I'll do that.
Maybe we can come back to your music now. When you look back to the beginning of ESA and the music that you produce right now, what are the main differences? How has your music developed throughout the years?
I would say that when I started off, it was much more noise influenced, so there was a lot more distortion, particularly on the drums. I would say that working a lot with Scott Fox, who's a really great producer for iValence, I learned a lot. I learned that in order to create more power, it doesn't necessarily mean more distortion. So I would say I took the foot off the gas a little bit in order to make a much bigger sound. And it's allowed me much more ability to make a cinematic sound in my music. So I would say probably, the first, 8 years was very much noise influenced. And I would say since that piece, I've been working much more with it's still a very powerful sound, but probably less distorted.
Do you also have any intentions to appeal to the wider audience in some way? I mean, you have done some softer songs, also I would say dark ambient songs or something that could work for different people that usually listen to your music.
So I've never written music for anybody else. It's always been because it's what I want to do at the time. But luckily I've made it in a way that it still applies to other people and still enjoy it. So I think what you're referring to is maybe the release by when I collaborated with Valeria from the Ukraine. And I wanted to do that because, I love dark ambient and I love acoustic sounds, and I love the idea of very dark Eastern European folk. Like, that's dark, that's real dark. That's like the genuine dark. So I decided to work with Valeria, and, I basically put down all the electronic equipment and just played an acoustic guitar and had her amazing vocals, and very, very proud of that. Unfortunately, the fans probably didn't hook onto it too well because it had no sirens and it wasn't 145 BPM, and but that's okay. That's fine. It's more for me to show to myself that I can make anything I want to if I want to. I can't say what will happen again. It depends on my influences at the time. I always want to pick up new influences. And I always want to try new things. I don't ever want to be static. I don't want to be stationary. Otherwise, what's the point making music? If you're going to release the same album every time, what's the point?
Yeah, I understand that you always want to make a better album than before. I would say that it's very difficult. Where next? I mean, you have just a period 10 and the last EP. So I feel that it's at the top already. So where would you explore? What are your next ideas?
I think, that's a massive compliment. So thank you. I think it's going to be less about improving, but more about experiencing different genres. Like the last album had a rap track, and I really wanted to do that. I worked with a great rapper from America. I'd really like to do that again. I'd just like to try different things and see if I can do it. That's a personal achievement to me, that I can make music no matter what the genre. So maybe it's less of a question of how do I improve, but more of a question of where do I go sideways. and what kind of impression does that make in the world?
You're already see when your next album or next release will be?
I'm taking a break. So I released Either Young last month and as an EP, and I'm really proud of the tracks on that. And, we did a couple of videos. One's been released, one hasn't. The next video will be released in around a month. So a lot of my heart lies in video, a lot of my heart lies in art, visual art for the music. So I think after that I'm going to sit down and figure out what I want to do next. I would imagine it's going to be a good year and a half before I release something else, because I don't want to ever release a track unless there's a point for it. Like I see a lot of bands and they release music because they need to release, and there's no point to the tracks. There's no reason for the songs, and I find that quite depressing. I'd much rather take my time and write an album where there is a reason for every single track.
And it's very, very nice that you still release albums. You know, nowadays many artists release only singles or maximum EPs, maybe with 3 or 4 tracks on it, but you are still releasing like full albums.
Yeah, so luckily, do you mean physically or?
No difference.
So for
album
me,
is albums.
yeah. So for me personally, because I'm really old, for me personally, I enjoy the concept of an album. I enjoy the fact that you have 10 to 12 tracks and there is a journey between those tracks, and it's much more of a product and a piece of art rather than a single where it's just throwing a track at everybody. It just doesn't mean anything to me realistically. So I will always release albums when I can, but because of my personal situation that I was in a few months ago, I was like, okay, let's release this EP, let's get it out. Like, I'm proud of these tracks. I don't know if I can write anymore right now. Let's just do it. So yeah, I will always release albums when I can. And when I can, it will be physical as well.
And you still buy like physical albums also from other artists, or?
Yeah. Ready for the CD player in the car? Absolutely.
You're still CD guy more, not on vinyl.
Yes, I am. I'm an old guy. I like to see art. So.
And I mean that now all people are buying like vinyls, not CDs anymore. But
yeah, it's I think it's a construct of the younger generation that they are less interested in the art, obviously, of an album, whether it's vinyl or CD. For me, a physical product is a kind of a vessel, it's a vehicle to show the reason behind an album. To have art connected to the music, for me, it creates a great product. But that doesn't really exist anymore, especially to young people. Music is so quick, like everything else. It's like, I want this now, and I get it. And that's the digital world. That's only ever going to get more. It's not going to get less. So physical albums will deplete in the next few years, and it will be, what can I get instantly? And how many seconds do I need to listen to it?
How profitable it is actually to be a musician today. I mean, especially in a rather small scene like ours here. Do you also have some kind of a day job, or do you concentrate 100% on making music, or how is it?
There is pretty much zero money in being a musician unless you are a big musician. So our scene, because it's such a niche genre, there is very, very little money. I have a day job. I'm a manager. I don't know how long that will last, obviously with the coronavirus situation. And I will take some time off. And 2020 was going to be my year to, try and make music happen. But I think if we're all being realistic, it's very difficult to make enough money to, maintain a stable life for music, unless you are Taylor Swift.
Is there any questions from the audience?
Yeah, I have.
Oh, there is one.
We actually we are interested about the cover works. Do you have artists who does cover designs? Do you have any influences from that side?
The artwork.
Artwork for the covers, yeah.
Cover design.
Cover
Yeah.
design, yeah.
So I'm a big fan of film, like cinema. So whenever I decide on what artwork will be the vehicle for the album, I always look to quite a cinematic feel to it. Like on Burial 10, it's very cinematic and very thematic. I think I've struggled to say where the ideas come from, if I'm honest. I just think, okay, this album feels this certain direction, so let's try and match an image and the rest of the cover artwork to make the same feeling as the music. But for me, cover art and everything else that's maintained in a physical product is super important. Like I really want people to open up an album and go, okay, I feel something from these images, because the music is art, but the art needs to be art as well,
So it's not really conceptual decisions, it's kind of like what I'm feeling.
I would say the last two albums have been less conceptual. I would say the Themes albums have been very conceptual. Before I even started writing, I was, okay, what is this album about? And I almost decided what the artwork would be whilst I was writing. With that least, absolutely not. I started writing, I was like, okay, what does this album feel like now? And then I decided on the artwork. The Burial 10, it was a little bit more conceptual. It is a more conceptual album, but it's not a restrictive concept to the album. But yeah, the two things do usually go side by side, for me personally.
So you're designing them yourself, basically?
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So like Burial 10, all those pictures were done by me or my friends.
So what about your music videos? Where do these ideas come from, and who is behind these videos?
So it's me and my filming partner, so I write, produce and directs the videos, and he is the DP and films everything and edits it. He's a really good friend. I've known him for probably 12 years. And he decided to get into film, and we worked alongside each other so he had things for his portfolio and I would have somebody to work on video for me, so it was a great combination. If you ask where the ideas come from, who fucking knows? I mean, seriously, just somewhere. I mean, I love film, I love horror films, but I really like psychological horror films. I'm not really into gore films. I really enjoy films that are very powerful and very dark films that move you, so I try and communicate that into music videos. I try and create a cinematic video that has a very dark element to it. Because those are the music videos that I'm interested in seeing. I want to see a music video that tells me a story. I don't want to see a band in a room with some lights. I've got no interest in that. I'll go see them live if I want to see that. But for me, I want to create a story in 4 minutes. I want people to be like, what the fuck is this story about? And then at the end, they'll be like, okay, that's what the story is about. That's really important. And I think that a lot of bands do themselves a disservice by not exploring what you can do with a music video. But I personally am very lucky that I have a good friend that works in videography, and we can work together to make these.
You're talking about this friend. It was the same friend when you entered Hall Club yesterday. You said, "Damn,
Yeah. When I entered Hall, I was like, "Jeez, I wish he was with me, because he would have like lost his shit." And it's
Maybe the next music video there.
yeah. I mean, I would love to do a music video there. The place is just basically an absolute music video. Like the rooms there are just insane.
So we will all be there tonight.
I hope.
When talking about ideas, actually, as you have two projects, I mean, I've heard this also. I'm wondering if you get an idea of a song or so, how do you decide? Is this ESA or is this I've heard this fair?
It doesn't happen after I've written. It happens. I sit down and go, okay, I'm going to write an ESA track. I'm going to write an Ivarden sphere track. I approach them very differently because an Ivarden sphere track, although it might share similar properties to an ESA track, the way it's written, the way the bass sounds, the prominent elements of a track is different with either Ivarden sphere as the ESA. The ESA is much more about beats and drums, and with something to go alongside that. Whereas Ivarden sphere is all about the bass sound, all about the like a really dirty bass synth, and everything else sits around that. So I'll never sit down and go, okay, what is this track? It'll always be like, okay, I'm gonna sit down and write an ESA track, and I'll write an Ivarden sphere track.
Or sometimes you let it choose by Scott, or if you're like 50-50, you don't know, and you send this track to Scott Fox and ask it to.
No, I will always send him an
You
Ivarden
choose
sphere track.
like before.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be like, this is for you. What do you think? And he'll be like, yes, please.
So maybe we can also talk about the themes of your albums and songs. I would say that there is a sense of godlessness and devil and so on in the tracks, but simultaneously there is a feeling of spirituality or something like this there. What drives those themes in your work? In some sense, it's a follow-up question to the past one. I mean, you get these ideas, but what about the
If you're asking me where they come from, I just don't know, man. It's very difficult to quantify why your conscious and your subconscious works in a particular way.
I mean, what is your relationship with God, devil, and so on?
You want to ask, are you religious?
I mean, there's some deep stuff. I would say I would bracket myself as an atheist. I certainly don't believe any religion. I find religion quite destructive. I find the concept of religion quite destructive, and very divisive. And I think the last thing the human race needs is another tool to be divisive. I think that's what religion is built for, is to be divisive, along with politics. I like the idea of the devil. I like the idea of Satanism, because it provokes dark imagery. But I think the idea of religion is defunct. I think it's a vehicle for people to profit over people's insecurities. And if I could somehow create a world right now where religion wasn't a component, I'd absolutely do that, because I think it's a very destructive element to everybody. Is that a deep enough answer?
Yeah, we're getting deeper and deeper.
Okay, you just have mentioned your last album many times, and I more and more thought about its name, because I really don't know what's behind the period 10. Why 10? What?
Okay, so it's actually really superficial. It's the 10th album release. It's the 10th official release of ESA. And I was figuring out if I wanted it to be the last one. I was figuring out if I could go anywhere else, like to make it interesting, or if I was still repeating the same thing. So at the time I was like, okay, is this burial? Is this the burial of ESA? And since then I've realized there are places to go. There are still places that I haven't quite figured out yet. And that's what I want to do. I want to make sure I'm figuring things out still. Literally the 10 is, and you are the only person that's asked this, by the way. Nobody else has asked this, which I'm very surprised about. But 10 is literally the 10th official release.
When was the first one? can't remember.
The
A long time ago.
Yeah, Devotion, Discipline, and Denial was released in around about 2008, I think.
Oh, not so long time ago then. Okay, I thought it was maybe
Maybe a little
6
earlier.
years.
Yeah, I'll struggle to remember that actually, but it was like early 2000, mid 2000s.
How many years did you write music before that?
I would say between 1998, 1997. I would say that I was writing, black metal in my bedroom between 97, 2007. Yeah.
And you have also mentioned many times this band, black metal band, that you were making before you started like ESA. What instrument did you play? That you didn't mention.
You guitar.
Guitar,
Yeah.
But you have very good crawling, like death metal like vocals also. So vocally started drum and bass, and you started.
Weird guys, man. It was guitar.
Okay.
I'm definitely not a death metal vocalist. I could do it for like 20 seconds and I get really tired.
So I don't know, are there any questions from the audience, or we can continue with the next part, the live performance, mini live?
You don't have a question, Greta? Have you not built a question before you go?
I have a boring question about your
Give me a boring
process,
question.
because I was just wondering about, since you're a producer and also an artist and a technician, how much of randomness do you let in when you're creating, or you just like trying to make it sound good all the time? And how's that like that? When you said you don't know where ideas come from, I was wondering like what's the balance there? Like,
I think it's a very difficult question to answer because I think your subconscious works in a very strange way. I don't really know what my subconscious is picking up all the time. Like right here, right now, I'm probably picking up subconscious. When we were listening to the music that was going on before we were setting up, that's still going into your subconscious, right? Like that punk that we were listening to. So I think all the time you are soaking things in, but there are only very specific occasions when I go, okay, I really like that. What can I do with that? Like, so today I was walking around the old town in Tallinn. There was a subway, and there was a busker playing some kind of very traditional instrument. I couldn't possibly figure out what it was called, but he was playing very, very minor, very moody music on this instrument. I was like, oh, it's so fucking beautiful. How do I do that? How do I incorporate that into my music? And already like the alarms are going off and I'm walking around and I'm like, okay, how do I do that? So yeah, that might be on the next album. In fact, I'm gonna go find him tomorrow, go throw 10 euros at him and be like, can I just record you so I can do it as an intro for the next album? But there are certain points when you are existing around music, around film, you go, I fucking love that. That really connects to me. How do I do that in my own way? So I think a lot of it is subconscious, but I think there are very specific occasions when you approach very conscious situations like that. For sure.
Do you usually like have an idea and then start to make music, or sometimes you just sit behind computer and you start from zero? Do you do something and then it goes somewhere?
I usually have an idea. I usually sit down and be like,
Just experiment.
how do I want this to sound? I don't really experiment. I try and sit down with a mission. I'll be like, how do I make this sound like this? And then I think back in the day when I was first starting out, I'd be like, just fiddle around, see what works, what doesn't. But now I sit down and go, okay, how do I make this sound? How do I make this energy? And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But a really great example of that is work with Bad Blue Blowout, because I was listening to a lot of Christopherstein before that, and I was really interested in his production techniques because it's just so powerful. I was like, how do I make my version of that? How do I do that? And initially we filmed the music video beforehand. We filmed all the footage and we're like, okay, I have the right track to this footage. So it's a much different approach to other people. Like, how do I do this? Yeah, I think I managed to make like an ESA version of Gestapo sign. So it is usually with some kind of conscious decision now, not so much back in the day, but definitely now.
Do you have also like your favorite tempo or something like this?
Different tempos for different feels. So I would go for like something between 110 and 115 for a real sexual, sensual, industrial, powerful track, because it just feels so like groovy. But for something much angrier, I would go for like 130, 140.
But there's like no tempo you feel like most comfortable or something
No.
like this.
I think if you start dictating your music by a fucking tempo, you got problems, right? I mean, how boring is that?
Good answer.
So, any other questions from the audience?
Even not from Finland.
Music!
Just go and drink, that's all that matters.
Okay, you want to say something more? Or
I mean, all I can say is really what I've already said now, is the fact that this is crazy, surreal situation I'm here. I'm massively appreciative to you personally, and I think we'll have a great show tonight. I can't wait.
And it's also on radio too, so it's...
Yeah, a lot of people are going to hear this, much to their disappointment, I'm sure.
Thank you,
Thank
Jamie.
you. Thank you very much.